Welcome back, Warriors. Back with another episode of the 1% Club and Vigor Warriors 2. Hope you guys are doing well on your purpose. Hope you guys are keeping along with the plan. I want to thank you for all the comments, subscriptions, all the likes, and the donations. You guys are wonderful. We are over 200 subscriptions. We do have about 40% of people who are not subscribed, so I encourage you guys that if you like what we're doing, please go ahead and subscribe and go ahead and kind of get that percentage down to about 5%. So most people who are viewing this are subscribers, and I think I'm going to expand as we go along and do more different types of things and include the subscribers and do different things. I'm new at this, and I'm still new. I only started back in August, so I'm still kind of learning a little bit of the ropes of different things to do. And certainly you guys can kind of help me. I think I will do a live stream at some point, but I kind of want to kind of get the right equipment and do some of that kind of stuff as well. But once again, thank you for the comments. And once again, I'm going to shout out to Lynn, who, even though she disagreed with a lot of things I was saying, I appreciate the comments and feedback. And I hopefully in that last video with husbands need to love their wives, kind of helped a little bit with describing some of my thoughts on this. I think we'll do more of them as we go along. I believe this is why my channel is just not for males, but I think it's for females as well. We're getting a larger percentage of females coming into the viewing, so I think that's wonderful. And certainly there's a lot of topics I want to discuss, but I'm kind of focusing a lot of it from a biblical standpoint, which is kind of where I take a lot of this, because my purpose for retention has been to go back to the Lord. I know of examples, Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, different types of examples of people who use retention to go back and communicate more effectively with the Lord. And I think that's very possible. The more I've researched this, the more understanding of that, I believe that's possible. So that's the reason why I have focused on this as something that I really want to have happen. Now I'm closing on it 550 days. I thought I was closer. I went back and counted the check marks, which I don't always do, and I'm getting closer to 540 or something like that. So we're getting closer to 550. We're not there yet. So we'll kind of keep moving forward. But back to this, I want to do a set of ones on the 10 Commandments, because I think when you focus on the 10 Commandments, you're looking at something that is very highly spiritual, and how Moses communicated that to the people, and then also how practical it can be. And I think it's a way to live life, and I think God wanted to give us those so that we knew how to live life appropriately. Now, you can see that because you look at any sort of other type of religion, and these rules make sense no matter what religion you're talking about, right? And I think that's the key to a lot of what we're talking about. You want to make sure that you focus on what's important in you and your Creator. And to me, that's the only thing there is, really. I mean, a lot of this other stuff that we do on a daily basis is important for us to continue living life and succeeding and living the best way we can. But in the long run, my friends, my fellow warriors, the bottom line really is that you have to kind of think to yourself, okay, what is this all for? And to me, I'm trying to figure out the purpose as we go on day by day that my Lord, my Creator, gave me. And that's why I retain, and that's why I focus on things like the 10 Commandments. Now, given that a little bit, I think the 10 Commandments can be a very practical thing to use. So we're going to focus on each one of these and actually tie them into retention and self-control, which I think is a very, very important thing. And I'll give you some of my experiences of the past and trying to kind of uphold these and sometimes, succeed, sometimes fail to those things we do. So the first one is, thou shalt not have any gods besides me. And I think the key to this one, my friends, is the fact that you don't want to build any what they call idols. Idols are things that you create that you worship. And this goes back, thousands of years when people, didn't realize where God was, what God was. And so they idolized a stone statue, right? Or a piece of wood, or something that they thought was their creator. And I think that over time, we've come to develop different thoughts about what God is. And a lot of times it's God that we cannot see. Now, we can see God manifesting himself in different ways, through different things, through objects and things like that. But we're not really seeing God for what God really is, and that's a spiritual being. And that took a long time, I believe, for civilization to come to realize. And so in that kind of case, you don't really have the same sort of reaction you would as if you basically was, praying to a stone statue or something like that. So you don't want to have any sort of other idols or things that really would be taking you away from your relationship with the Lord. Now, what do we mean by this? Well, of course, we know there's idols when it comes to things like alcohol and gambling, and when it comes to things like having hobbies, things that could be anything. It can actually be anything that would take you away from actually praying to the Lord. And has this happened to me? Yes. That's why it's important to try to keep the Sabbath day, which is one of my faults that I don't do very well. Keeping the Sabbath day, making sure you're praying, always really reading the Bible and reading it seriously. Now, I read it every day. Some days I have to admit, not as strong as others, and my mind goes elsewhere. This is the kind of thing they're talking about when we're talking about idols. We're talking about things that take you away from your Creator. And this is something that we have to look at. Now, how does this fit into this discussion on retention? Well, if you feel like images, pornography is something that is your idol, that basically you're using these type of things to focus on something else, you're moving away from the Lord. And so I think in many cases when people use idols, this is what they're using them for. They're using them in the way that they become something that takes them away from God. And the more you get into this, the more some people get depraved and they get into more behaviors and pictures that have to be more enticing, the further they get away from their Creator and their God, And that's what you want to avoid. And so as we look at this whole situation, I think that the commandment number 1 really is the one that focuses on thou shalt not have any other gods, is a key one when it comes to retention. Because if you're focusing on God, and this is, some of you may be doing this, some of you may not be, depending on how religious you are. But if you don't have God in your life, you essentially, by deduction, become God. And that is a huge sin, because you are just as well idling yourself. Not just necessarily idling some figure, but you are the idol. And that's just as much of the problem as any other idol we've talked about. And that's why when we see this situation, we have to be very careful that we're not becoming our own idols. And this is what happens a lot when we're focusing on trying to do pornography, trying to look at images, trying to focus on things that are not really God-like. They're not really very spiritual. So as we look at these type of things, it's important to focus on not making idols, not focusing on other things besides your Lord. And I think that's a key type of thing when it comes to this. So when we talk about step 1 here, commandment 1, we're talking about trying to make sure that we really have a good handle on the things that we're looking at. And having a good handle means focusing on your relationship with the Lord, having self-control, having the ability to be able to say no, and really having some purpose. And so as you follow these commandments, they're very much aligned with the whole idea of staying together with your relationship with the Lord. And I think that's a key type of thing in this whole idea. So the commandment, thou shalt not have any other gods besides me, is really, really important. And you want to make sure that you focus on this enough and have that type of thought in your mind that anytime I release, anytime I let myself, go and lose energy, I'm unfortunately also losing part of my relationship with my Lord. And that's where you don't want to be at. And I think that's a key in a lot of things that we focus on. So don't lose that relationship with your Lord. Don't kind of give in to temptation, because that's going to put you a step back. So anytime you're releasing, anytime you're giving back that energy, anytime you're losing energy that God has given you, you're going to end up focusing on a negative type of thing. And I think that's the key to it. Okay? All right, so in summary, guys, the commandment number 1 is that you want to not have any idols or anything in your life that takes you away from God. And so it might be little things like gambling, and not little things, but gambling, addictions, all these type of things, overeating, all those type of things. They make you focus on something else than God. And so that's what they're talking about. And this has a high relationship with retention, because what you're doing is when you're talking about imagery, things like that, you're putting all that above God. And that creates a problem. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one. Next time, battle on.